Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Issei betrayed by Rias part 1. Before I start, please do support for more awesome content and subscribe my channel and like this video and also share this video with your friends. I have created my other videos playlist, there you can watch my all videos easily, check out as well. Let's start this video. Issei, who am I to you? Asked Rias with concern. What do you mean? You're the president, and Rias said till he got cut off. Aka shouted Rias as she slapped him hard enough to push him away. Issei put his hand on his cheek in shock, then the other members of the orc started to insult him in the process. Issei, you're such a fool, shouted Akeno, snapping at him. You're terrible, Issei. How could you, Asia, say, joining in. Seriously, do we have to spell it out for you? Jeez. Says while putting his hand on his face. You're such a baka, Issei. I'm dense, but this takes the cake, Zenobia said, chipping in the insult. You're the worst, Kaneko says with a disappointed look. I can't believe you. How can you be so blind, says Irina while wiggling her finger in a no way. Issei is stunned, and just a lot of everyone is confused. So far only people that have not belittled him are Ravel, Roswis, and Gasper. Gasper, do you hate me too? Asked Issei with a confused face. Sorry, senpai, you have done a horrible thing, said Gasper, but not as harshly as the others. But why? Asked Issei, still confused. Issei decided to use his bilingual skills to see if he could understand and hope to clear things up, but all he could hear was hate, and worst was from Rias. You absolute fool, Akeno's inner voice. You clueless moron, Irina's inner voice. And people said I was dumb. Zenobia's inner voice. What is wrong with you? Asia's inner voice. Pervert, Kaneko's inner voice. What just happened? Ravel's inner voice. Let him finish, Rias Roswis's inner voice. You're such a bastard, Ardria's inner voice. Are you serious right now? Damn it, I regret even reincarnating you. I should have let Raymer kill you twice. Riser sounds like a better backup lover. I regret breaking the marriage to him, Rias shouted in anger. The room was silenced, and everyone looked shocked, with wide eyes and mouths agape. Issei looked at Rias with a blank expression. He then shed a tear and figured out what she meant by letting Rayner kill him. Rias saw this and realized what she had just said. Oh no, Issei, said Rias, but got cut off by Issei. No, it's okay, don't apologize, Issei said as he sighed. Issei, I didn't mean it. Rias says while trying to correct what she said. No, did you all didapert from Ravel and Roswis, Issei said as he gestured to them. I'm glad you were all honest with me. You let me die, which means you would have let Asia die when you could have saved us. With your power, it would have been so easy. You reincarnated me to teach Riser a lesson, and I did it. Now that he's a better person and you're free, what do you need me for? I'm just a pawn, a tool, a slave, after all. You used me cause I have the boosted gear, and you're a devil. Issei said as he sighed, and tears came down his face. Right now, Issei was barely managing to keep his breathing stable. His body felt cold to him, and each word he spoke made his voice tremble. His face expressed every negative emotion, meaning hate, disdain, fear, anxiety, etc. That's not what she is. Akeno tries to say but is cut off by Issei. I'll see you guys at the rating game. I promised Serg a good fight. Take care, guys. Master. Issei says as he starts to walk out of the door. Rias, you let him die. Inner voice. What the? Ravel's inner voice. As Issei approaches the door, Rias grabs his hand to try to talk to him, but his gauntlet appears. Let go, Gremory. You'll only make it worse. Drake said with an angry tone. Issei, please listen, Rias said. Issei lets out a powerful aura that symbolizes the rage he's feeling, and he looks at her and the others, except for Roswis and Ravel, with so much hate. Let me go, roared Issei. Rias let go of him and backed off. He called her by her last name. He had never done that to her. Issei stopped releasing his bloodlust-filled aura. Don't you dare, Rias, Roswis shouted with such an angry tone. Rias and everyone froze as Roswis had never raised her voice like that before. I feel like this is my fault. Ravel said, looking upset and with head down. This is our problem, we can only expect you to do some things, but we appreciate the offer. I'm sorry to ask this, but please go home for now. I need to find Issei. I hope Issei is alright. Ravel says with a worried look. I doubt it, Roswis said with a sad look. Ravel teleports home through the magic circle, and then Roswis looks at all of them with pure rage. Now. Start talking, Roswis screamed out. Everyone in the room was frightened by the sudden change of Roswis. You guys let Issei die. And would have let Asia die. Roswis said with a scornful look. I. Rias stuttering. Speak up, Roswis shouted. Okay, yes, I let him die. He told us to help save Asia, and we did, but not fast enough to do it when she was still human, Rias shouted with tears going down her face. You said that you should have let Rayner kill him twice. Does that mean you knew he was a target? Also, that Asia was a target. Roswis said as she raised her voice at the end. Rias was left with her mouth open, nothing coming out. That silence could only mean yes, you knew that the fallen were after them, but you let them die so you could use them to get out of a marriage. I did my research. Rias was left stunned. Roswis looked at everyone else. Asia was crying as she glared at Rias, but some anger was directed towards herself. You knew this the whole time, Rias. He risked life and limb for you and us, and this is how we repay him. Said while the tears went down her face. Did the rest of you know about her plans as well? Roswis asked now with a questionable look. Hineko and Akeno looked away in shame and showed their guilt. Noi was sealed away. Gasper said while in his box. But why? Roswis asked with a curious look. I couldn't control my powers, Gasper said, looking down in shame. Roswis looked at Rias, so, instead of helping him, you sealed him away. Wow, I can't believe you right now. Roswis says while disappointed. Is it so hard for him to say my name and say he loves me? Rias shouted, trying to change the subject. Stop changing the subject. You didn't let him finish. I could tell him he's in love with you, but that, Roswis leaves the orc to look for Issei. What have we done? Irina says while trying to hold her tears back. I was cruel to him. Gasper said, now crying in his box. Rias started to sob uncontrollably. Kaneko stopped eating her sweets and had a shadow over her eyes. Kiba's hands were shaking, sat motionlessly, and Zenobia held her head. Asia ran out the door, looking for him. We messed up big time. Irina says while sniffing. Outside, Roswis was running out of the school's main gate and saw Issei walking in the distance. She managed to catch up to him within seconds. Issei, wait up, shouted Roswis in desperation. Issei didn't respond and kept walking until Roswis grabbed him by his hand and he stopped, but he never faced her. Please let go. I need to be alone, said Issei, sniffing and trying to hold in his tears. No, Issei, we need to talk about it, Roswis said, hoping he would come around. What's there to talk about? You heard her. I'm just a pervert that shouldn't be alive. Issei explained while still sniffling, breaking her grip on his hand and carrying on walking. Issei, please talk to me, Roswis pleaded. I'm sorry, but I have nothing to say to anyone. I'm going to go. I have a lot to think about, so I'll see you at school tomorrow, sensei. Issei said and was going from view. Roswis just watched him disappear, knew not to pursue it any further, and thought he needed to heal right and not by force. She turned around, headed back to school, and bumped into Asia on the way back. Where is he? Asked Asia with tears coming down her face. He needs to be alone. Let's leave him be. Roswis said with a worried tone. But I need to apologize to him, Asia said and sniffed when she said it. I know that, but it won't heal the damage done. Come back to the clubroom. We all need to talk, Roswis said now with a tone of determination to get to the bottom of this. Roswis and Asia made their way back to the orc, while Asia wept the whole time, only to find out she was left to die only to be used, and the only one in the same boat was her savior, and she hurt him. Roswis took her inside and left her in the orc. She then called Azazel, but it went straight to voicemail. She thought he might be carefree, but he was also very caring, especially to his students, and more caring to Issei, who is unique. Hey Azazel, it's me. We have a serious situation here. I tease Issei. He's just Sem. You can help him right now, Roswis says, leaving the message on his phone. Issei, POV. After leaving Roswis and others behind, he got inside his home, dropped his school bag in his room, and changed into his training clothes, a vest and shorts made from durable material. He went to the underground training field and just started training to vent his frustrations. Balance breaker, promotion to Rook, shouted Issei. Welsh Dragon boosted gear scale mail. Welsh Dragonic Rook solid impact Drag responded from his boosted gear. Many targets appeared and Issei started to punch them. He needed strength and power against Serg. He kept hitting and boosting, but he felt as if each punch he threw was weaker than the last. Come on. What's wrong with me? Issei asked himself. Issei. You know why, Drake said with a sad tone. Issei just stood there stumped, knowing why. You need to let out your frustrations, partner, you're angry, stop holding it in. Drake said as he was angry with the Crimson Princess as well. Suddenly, Issei's balance breaker armor disappeared and he fell to his knees. He looked at the somewhat broken target dummies and started to cry, and he tried to hold back the tears. Real men don't cry. Don't be a bitch, don't be weak, Issei said, trying to force himself to stop crying. But it was of no use, and he broke down more and more each time he tried to calm himself within mere seconds. Only his loud cries could be heard. He punched the ground, and each punch created cracks since he was in his Rook promotion still. His knuckles were bloody, mixed with tears flowing from his eyes. After all I went through, Rogue Fallen, Freed, Kakabiel, Riser, Volley, Diodora, Loki, Juggernaut Drive, Cow, Chaos Brigade, and for what Issei screamed at the top of his voice. As Drake was thinking, sniff. One tiny mistake and suddenly I'm the worst being to exist, Issei said, still sniffing with tears coming down his face. It's not your fault, Drake said, trying to calm his partner down. Then why does it feel like it is? If I weren't such a pervert, things would have been different. Maybe I never would have been killed by that light spear. Maybe I would have awakened you earlier and been strong enough to save Asia, not use the Juggernaut drive or anyone else. Issei said, wiping his tears away. Issei, it also made you the strongest Red Dragon Emperor, Drake said, trying to cheer his partner up. At what cost? My perversion damages your reputation and your psyche. For fuck's sake, I must be the worst to be able to do that to a dragon, Issei shouted in frustration. I appreciate your concern, but right now, you need to worry about yourself. Drake said he was grateful that his partner was sorry for his actions. I'm just so angry. I was being used this whole time. I was a puppet, Issei said with frustration. Issei, I doubt that. Drake said. How so? Issei asked with confusion. They do love you, Drake said. Why did they let me die? If she needed help, she could have asked me and explained it to me. I would have helped. Knowing your partner, you would be off. I believe you would have, Drake said, knowing how kind his partner was. All this is making me want a drink. Azazel thinks I don't know about his stash of booze in this house, Issei said as he got up and walked to a secret cabinet. Issei, please don't. It won't help. Drake said, hoping he would stop. Right now, anything might help to numb this pain, Issei said. As he opened up the compartment, he saw vodka, whiskey, scotch, and other alcohol. Luckily his parents weren't home. Just as he was about to pour himself a drink, he was stopped by Azazel. Issei, please don't. I can't bear to see you go down that round, Azazel said as he suddenly appeared just in time. He saw Issei as a son, but never once imagined him doing something like this. The unstoppable Red Dragon Emperor is now wholly broken. Azazel. Issei said, shocked at the sudden appearance. Hey, kiddo, Azazel said before bringing Issei into a hug. Issei then suddenly cried into his shoulder. After some time, Issei stopped crying and sat in the corner of the room with Azazel sitting next to him. Do you want to talk about it? Azazel asked, knowing what caused this to happen. Do you already know what happened? Issei asked out of curiosity. I do, Azazel said with a sad look. I guess Rias told you the story. Issei asked. Yeah, she did. She is apprehensive about you, Azazel said with concern. I see. I can't believe Ravel saw what had happened, Issei said while looking down at his feet. That should be the least of your concern right now, kiddo, Azazel said, trying to help him. They let Asia and me die, and I nearly died several times willingly for them, Azazel. Am I such a fool? Issei asked with a down-spirited tone. Not at all. We were all fooled, we all thought that they were the kind-hearted people we knew, but today, their true colors were shown, Azazel said with anger mixed in. People? Devils through and through, Issei said. Not all of them saw their mistakes and also saw that they didn't let you finish your confession. If you did confess, then Azazel. I would have been in bliss. Despite not completely healing the emotional damage that Rainer caused, I was ready to move on. I gave my heart, body, and soul to her, everything I did, and she said that she would rather go back to Riser, Issei said nonchalantly. Women are trouble, I got caught by their allure, and I fell, but you fell more than I did, Azazel said. I don't know what to do anymore. I lived and nearly died for the woman I fell in love with, and this is my penance. Nearly drinking alcohol and breaking apart at the very thought of her. Issei said with his hair covering his eyes while he looked down at his feet. Well, at least I stopped you. You could have a hell of a hangover the next morning, hahaha, Azazel said, laughing at the end. It'll be nothing compared to the light spears or merging a part of the dividing gear, Fenrir puncturing my entire body with his fangs, or the worst I've suffered yet, this heartache, Issei said with a stoic look. Well, in only a few months, you went from being a pervy high school kid to fighting strays, fallen monsters, other sacred gear users, and even Loki, all while becoming the strongest Red Dragon Emperor, Azazel said with pride. I only survived Loki because of Ravel giving me a phoenix tear, Issei said with a slight smirk. Yeah, she's a caring girl, Azazel said, appreciating Ravel's actions for Issei. So far, Ravel, Rias, and you seem to care about me, Issei said while still doubtful. So does Aja, Irina, Gasper, and the others, Azazel said, not knowing what others truly felt. On the contrary to recent events, Issei said. It's late, Issei, get some sleep. Hopefully, you can sleep it off, Azazel said as he got off the floor to help Issei. Issei slowly got up and managed to walk to get an empty bedroom weakly, and he got on the bed, he passed out in mere seconds. Azazel left a note on the side table for him to see once he woke up. I hope the sleep will calm you down, I'll come to check on you in the morning, and we will think of a way to help you out, maybe a break from the group or something. Azazel. Once Azazel left the bedroom, he placed a few powerful spells and runes on the door. Only he and a select few can enter the room, and if any unwanted people try to enter, he'll know when Issei leaves or anything he'll understand. He is pissed that he was hurt this much in mere seconds. Issei's mindscape. As soon as Issei collapsed onto the bed, Drake brought him into his mindscape to comfort him in whatever way he could. He flew down and gave him a big hug. Issei, you know I am always here for you, unlike my past hosts, you are the only one that treats me as a friend and not a tool, Drake said as he carried on hugging him. Thanks, Drake, you're one of my best friends. If I were a dragon, I wouldn't call my brother, Issei said as he replicated the hug. Now that would be interesting, so have you got a plan on how to beat Saraerg, or have plans changed? Drake asked Issei. Nope, I still want to beat him as I did promise him a good fight, so I was thinking maybe see if Azazel or Surziches will be able to find somewhere for me to train without distractions, Issei said with a little bit of venom at the end. That would be good, so what are you thinking about training in your other gear forms? Drake asked. No, I'm going to focus on the base to strengthen the balance breaker. Plus, I am done being a pervert as it's been used against me so many times, Issei said with determination. What you did with my Issei, he never would give up his pervertedness, Drake said while looking shocked. Haha, very funny, Drake. I am still going to be a pervert that never changes, but I am going to tone it down and also control it, so no more pervert moves from me, Issei said while smiling after giggling. Wow, this is a change, so if you are going to train on your base form, some of the past users might be able to help you out since you saved them, Drake said with pride. It would be awesome if they could help, but in the meantime, I feel sleepy, so I am going to get some sleep. Talk to you in the morning, Drake, Issei said, smiling and then closing his eyes to fall asleep. Night partner, Drake said as he went to sleep as well. Meanwhile, the orc group, Rias and the other members of the orc were looking for Issei and checking each room to find him. They finally stumbled upon the room where Azazel put a barrier, and the group felt a blockage that prevented them from going to it. Guys, why is there a barrier in this room? Irina asked while looking puzzled at the others. That's one of the many spare bedrooms. Do you think Issei is in there? Asked, hoping he was. I'm cutting the door down. Stand back, shouted Zenobia. Zenobia, wait, shouted Roswis. Before she could stop, Zenobia had already summoned Durandal, who was above her and was ready to cut the barrier along the door. The instant she swung her blade, a hand grabbed her arms and stopped her mid-swing. Everyone looked towards the figure that stood tall, dark, and pissed off, and it was Azazel. Don't you fucking dare, none of you is to go near him, talk to him, or anything, shouted Azazel, showing he was serious. What the hell, Azazel? He's my pawn, and I do what I like as his king, Rias said while holding her hips. Is that all he is to you? Not the man who risked everything to save not just you but everyone else here as well. Do I have to remind you of what every one of you said to him except for Roswis, who tried to help him after what you all did, Azazel said, holding his ground. With that, everyone's face went to the ground in shame except for Roswis. You didn't even let him finish confessing, and look where your stupidity got him. As of this moment onwards, I'll be looking after his well-being, since almost all of you would probably cause him to take his own life next, Azazel said with a severe look. What do you mean next? What did he do in the first place? Asked Irina, now worried. He was about to drink alcohol after smashing his hands against all the dummies and the floor and was in such a depressed state, thanks to you all. Some friends you are. Azazel said with a look of disappointment. Please let me see him, let me apologize, asked while holding her hands together. Even if I did, there's no point. He completely blacked out after I helped him to his bed. He couldn't even hear you if you screamed at the top of your lungs. It broke my heart to see him like that, and I can't let you see him. It'll hurt you, even more, Asia. Azazel looked down with sadness, then looked at Rias. Rias, did you say you regret turning him into a devil and returning to Riser, now that he's different? Azazel asked, hoping she didn't. I wish I didn't. Rias said while holding back her tears. Azazel was stunned. She said that to Issei's face, the man who saved her again and again, saved them all, the others and themselves, gave his arm, used juggernaut drive, light spears, you name it, yet just a few sentences killed him inside. I can't believe you. Azazel said as he fell to his knees. Why? What could have possessed you to be so cruel to the man in love with you? Azazel asked while holding back his tears in shock. With that, Rias began to whimper and tried her best not to cry because of her mistake. As of this moment, none of you are to be near or contact or follow him. Roswis makes sure that they stay away. I have to inform Surziches and Grafia about this, Azazel said while standing back up and looking at Roswis. No, please, shouted Rias in fear of what would happen. Silence, you damned brat, shouted Azazel with his aura leaking out, showing how angry he was. This will impact everything in one of the worst ways possible for him. You let him get traumatized and killed by the hands of Raynor when you could have helped, and then you go and do this. Stay away for his sake and yours, because if he snaps again, he and the rest of you will be dead. I don't even want him to sense your presence, got it? Azazel said as he raised his voice at the end. Everyone nodded out of fear. Then Azazel teleports to the underworld, but not before placing an even more powerful barrier on the room. Everyone go to your rooms, stay out of Issei's room, Roswa said, now in teacher mode. I'm the king. I should be giving the orders around here, Roswas, Rias retaliated in anger. I take orders from a real king, not the person you are right now, Roswa said, holding her ground while in a standoff with Rias. But that, it shut her up and they all went to their rooms, but Gasper stayed outside the room. "You to Gasper," said Roswas in a calm manner. Gasper stood there for a few more seconds looking at the barrier blocking the entrance, and then he went to one of the empty rooms. Roswas touched a barrier and was surprised she could go through it. "So Azazel allowed me to enter. Good, least I can check up on Issei," Roswas said in a low voice, like talking to herself. She went through the door, and inside, she could smell the sweat. She walked over to him and was saddened at the sight. His knuckles had dried blood on them, and he was crying even in his sleep. She holds his hands and casts a healing spell to heal his hands. "If only there were a spell to fix your heart, Issei. You were about to confess just as you both wanted. You don't deserve this," Roswa said with a sad look. She then left the room after healing his hands. She then headed to her room and was worried about Issei. She realized just how fragile his heart and mind were. She then managed to fall asleep but would wake up now and then to check on Issei. She would find the others one by one trying to get through the barrier and force them into their rooms. Azazel teleported into Surzich's office and caught him on his way out. Surzich's noticed the magic presence and turned around to see Azazel's face and the aura he was released, which meant something was wrong. "What's wrong, Azazel?" Surzich's asked in a severe tone. "Let's talk in the office," now Azazel said with such a deep tone showing his anger, which Surzich's nodded and entered his office. "So what happened?" Surzich's asked again. "Your sister fucked up," Azazel said, shouting at the end. "What?" Surzich's asked with a confused look. Issei was about to confess his feelings to her, but, in her eyes, he didn't do it right. She snapped at him, and so did everyone in the room except Roswas and Ravel. She immediately yelled at him and said things that made me speechless for a minute. Azazel said, explaining the situation. "Such as?" Surzich's asked, now intrigued by what his sister said and beginning to fear the worst. She told him that she regrets turning him into a devil. Azazel says while cutting off at the end with a sigh. "What?" shouted Surzich's, now realizing the situation. "That's not even the worst part," Azazel said, releasing more aura. "How could it get worse?" Surzich's asked but began to regret asking. "Brace yourself," Azazel says while trying to calm himself. "Oh no," Surzich's said, now holding on to the edge of his chair. The next morning, as Issei woke up, he had a slight headache from all that had happened, plus the sunlight hitting the room was not helping, especially since devils feel weaker in the sunlight. As he opened his eyes slightly and looked around, he saw a note on the table. As he read it, he got up and dressed and walked out the door, and he then saw a barrier. Did Azazel do this?" Issei said to himself. He looked at the barrier and placed his hand on it, and it went right through. "Looks like I can come and go as I please, but who else is allowed in?" Issei asked himself with a hand on his chin. He walked down to the kitchen and drank at least 2 liters of water. He then looked at the time and saw that it was past 11 a.m. "I missed school." Issei sighed at the end. He decided to make himself a cup of coffee since it was a little late for breakfast. He sat at the table, contemplating his life. He stayed there for 2 hours thinking. Partner Drake said, "Oh hey, Drake, how are you doing?" Issei asked. "I'm fine, are you doing any better?" Drake asked out of worry. Issei was just silent. Issei thought about what she said Drake said before getting cut off by Issei. "No, Drake, I don't want to talk about it," Issei said, annoyed. "But you need to partner," Drake said with concern. "No, I don't. I'm done. Issei tried to say before starting to cry. He couldn't even finish his sentence without breaking down. The damage was more precise than before. Drake pulled Issei into his subconscious and hugged him, and he regretted bringing it up and tried to comfort him. Every host of Drake had died either in battle with the White Dragon Emperor or by using the Juggernaut drive just for fun, but this time he fears that Issei might die due to heartbreak. As time passed, Drake noticed and realized that Rias and the others would arrive any second. "Issei, they'll be here soon. It's best to keep your distance from them," Drake said, advising Issei on what to do. Sniff. "Yeah, thanks Drake. You've been a great help," Issei said while sniffing after crying. He then leaves the sacred gear and wakes up back in the real world. He just wishes that he didn't. He went to his room and locked the door. He could have gone back to the barricaded room, but his room was comfortable. Every other room is just so empty and feels foreign. He just stood there and looked around. The smell of their perfumes lingered. It made him sad. He started to clean to distract himself. He got fresh sheets. He couldn't stand the smell of their scent. He opened the window and used air freshener. He was cleaning anything he could and found his porn stash. He looked at it and decided to get rid of it, all of it. He packed the magazines and movies in separate bags, took down the posters and figurines from site, packed it all, and put ads for them online. Within minutes he got bids and sold them to the highest bidder. He made an excellent 750,000 yen. After it was all said and done, he heard his doorknob turn. He looked at the door and could feel their presence. He pushed a chair against the door and barricaded it. He then heard someone knock on his door. "Hey Issei, are you there?" Kaneko asked. Issei didn't respond to her. "Issei, please talk to us," said. "Big brother, we're sorry for what we said," Gasper said with a sad voice. Yet again, no answer. He just sat there. "Eyes, you heard Azazel. Leave Issei alone." "You've heard him too much already," Roswa said with a concerned tone. Issei was glad that someone was already looking out for him. They all left, but Roswa stayed. "You okay there, Issei?" Roswas asked, still worried about him. "Yeah, thanks." Another few seconds, and I might have said something to them that I would regret later, Issei said as he leaned against the wall. Roswas smiled. "At least he talks to me," she thought. "Anytime, are you hungry?" she asked. "No, but thanks. I already ate," Issei said as a white lie to make her not worry about him. "Alright, I'll be in the room next to yours. If you want to talk, then let me know," Roswa said, hoping he would talk to her so she could comfort him. "Sure, thanks. Sensei," Issei said as he wanted to tell her name but couldn't. She left and entered the adjacent room. Issei grabbed the bags and flew out of the window. He met up with the buyers and sold his stuff. He got paid and he stashed the cash in a safe spot, but then again, that cash is chump change compared to the money he made from the grabbing dragon show. As night fell upon the Hyodo household, a red teleportation circle appeared in front of Issei in his room. From it jumped out of Surziches and Grafia, who decided to give him a death hug, squeezing him tightly. "Surziches? Lady Grafia?" asked Issei, confused. "What's happening?" "Sniff Issei, I'm so sorry," Grafia said while tears went down her cheeks. "We both are," Surziches said, adding to what Grafia said. Issei was perplexed. He's never seen Grafia without a stoic expression other than a slight smirk that would appear when she's proud of her friends and family. Right now, he sees not just her with an unmistakable sad expression, but Surziches has the same sad look. Issei was stunned and silent. "What are you two apologizing for?" he asked as they let go of him. "You know very well why. It's because of her that you're in this situation. As her elder, I apologize on her behalf," Surziches said in a sad tone. "It's not your fault, so why apologize?" Again Issei asked, now confused. "It's because we asked you to save her months ago, we asked you to risk your life, and it's because of us that you're hurting Issei," Grafia said, still with tears going down her cheeks. "Heh. That wouldn't have made a difference. I would have saved her either way and fought Riser," Issei said as both Surziches and Grafia looked into his eyes and saw how devoid of any life or emotion. Just a cold and empty gaze. "Issei. What did she do to you?" asked Surziches now with a worried look. "Let me die, let Aja die and rip my heart into pieces just because I didn't say I love you the right way apparently, and said she regrets turning me into her pawn and that Riser is now a worthy candidate for her love," Issei said nonchalantly with no emotion. Both Surziches and Grafia gasped and their eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. "She didn't," said Grafia while still in shock. "Ask Roswis and Rabble. They saw and heard the whole thing," Issei said. "Issei, please tell me how we can make it up to you, anything at all," Surziches says, hoping he can fix this mess. "Anything?" Issei asked while tilting his head. "Just name it," Grafia said in hope. "Then please make me a free devil," Issei asked after considering his options, which left them stunned by his request. "I'm guessing you're surprised by my request. Well, I can't blame you. You know what? Let's just forget about it," Issei said, looking down at his feet. "Issei, you're making us worry about you," Grafia said, hoping to help him. "Sorry. I don't mean to," Issei said, still looking down to the floor. "We know, Issei, you need to talk to us about it," Surziches said, hoping he could shed more light on what's happening. "Azazel told you everything, right?" "As did I don't know what else to talk about," Issei said while gripping his wrists. "We can talk about how you feel," Grafia said. How do I feel?" "I feel numb, and I feel apathy," Issei said. "You've pushed your emotions deep down, don't bottle them up," Grafia says with a worried look. "I didn't, and I just went numb," Issei explained. As Issei said, Surziches noticed that the dirty posters were gone, and his magazine and dirty movies on his shelves were gone too. "Issei. Did you do some cleaning?" Surziches asked while trying to work out where it had gone. "Oh, that, many collectors wanted all that stuff, so I sold it. I think it's time that I outgrew my lust," Issei says with no emotion. This made both of them shocked once again. "Issei, this isn't you," Grafia says, now knowing how bad this looks. "The old me should never have been who I was before. The old me was a damn fool for ever loving them," Issei says with a hint of anger in his tone. "Issei," was all that Surziches could say. "Because of that, I'm done loving your sister, her peerage. I only trust Roswis, Ravel, you two, and Azazel. You're the only ones who care, and that's why I'll continue to help you when you need me. Wait, there's also Sarah and Saji. I can't believe I forgot to mention them as well. We're happy that you don't hate us," Surziches says with a little bit of a smile. "I have no reason to hate you about the grabbing dragon show." Can you use a stunt double when my character has to interact with Rias? I know I sound like a diva, but as you already know, our chemistry isn't the same as it used to be. If she and I came face to face, then I might say something I'll regret. Or not. Issei says as he explains. You're still angry at her, aren't you? Surziches asks out of concern. Livid, Issei says nonchalantly. Issei, I beg you for your forgiveness, pleaded Surziches. You shouldn't apologize for her actions or theirs. I'm done caring for them except for Roswis and Ravel, said Issei. What about Irina and Asia? Asked Grafia out of curiosity. Some friends they are. Too late for apologies now. I don't care if they tried to make things right. There's no way to undo the damage and I used my spell to figure out what I did wrong. Issei. Would you please try to look past it? I'll make you a free devil if you want. Surziches pleaded yet again. Let me ask you, if you were in my position, told by the one you're in love with that they wish they never met you, that they let you die when they could have done something to save you or even warn you, they would rather see you dead and replaced by the one you risked your life to fight to save her from a forced marriage, with. Would you ever be able to move on from that? Love or even care for them in the slightest after seeing all you endured going down the drain? Issei says, questioning them and finally showing his emotions, and seeing it was painful as he cried like that. Issei. I'll personally make you a free devil because you're right. If you're around Rias when you harbor such feelings after what she said and still choosing to fight by our side. This is the least I can do for you, Surziches says, finding the harsh reality Issei's in. Please do. I don't want to run away and be marked as a stray. I don't want to die and hurt you guys or my parents like that, Issei pleaded while tears went down his face. You're still thinking about others even when you're in pain. You're still the same Issei we know. Please bring that to the surface. I'll try only because you ask me to as I see you as an older sister, Issei said while in the embrace of Grafia. Are you ready to become a free devil? Surziches asked as he prepared to do the magic circle. Yes, Issei said as he came out of Grafia's embrace and walked towards Surziches. With that, Surziches creates the magic circle below Issei, emitting a bright red light. Outside Issei's room, Rias saw the red light coming from underneath the door. What the Issei? Rias talks to herself as she presses her ear against the door to eavesdrop on the conversation. Issei Haidu, you can be free if you don't cause conflict. During times of crisis, if ordered to help by the Devil Kings, you must obey. These are the two fundamental rules. Use your freedom wisely, and you're also allowed to use promotions. You are now a free devil. Surziches says that as he finishes the chant, the glow starts to go down. Rias couldn't believe her ears, Issei was no longer her pawn, and her brother did that. "No!" screamed Rias as she burst through the door with enough force to break it down, but what she saw right before her was Surziches emitting a blood-red aura and Grafia radiating a white freezing aura. "Rias Gremory, step outside now," Surziches shouted at the end. Both Surziches and Grafia's auras alerted everyone to come over, and as they did, they were greeted by the fearsome sight. "Glad all of you could join us. We've got a bone to pick with you," Grafia said with a harsh and scary tone, which caused everyone to pale and shake except for Roswis. "As of this moment onwards, Issei is a free devil," Surziches says in a commanding tone. As everyone gasped, Rias decided to outburst against it. "But he's my pawn, and I need him," Rias shouted with anger. "Silence," shouted Surziches in such a command, emitting a strong aura that caused Rias to flinch at his outburst like the same as Azazel had. "Rias Gremory, we know what you did. What you all did, all but one of you are now ordered to stay away from Issei," Grafia says with anger. "Even me?" questioned Irina. "Damn straight. I'm disappointed in all of you, and I'm starting to think that Roswis should be promoted to a king, as none of you are as you should be. Kiba, Zenobia, Kaneko, Akeno, Asia, Gasper, Irina, and Rias. I'm deeply disappointed, angry, and hurt by your actions. We treat each other like family, so tell me why this happened. Why did you all say such things?" Surziches asks them. They said nothing and just stood there trembling. This is the side of him and Grafia that they rarely see, but when they do. They needed a miracle to survive, but as luck would have it, a miracle happened. "Eyes, please stop. Ripping them a new one would be satisfying, but not worth it," Issei says to defuse the matter, which causes Surziches and Grafia to look at him in surprise. "Are you defending them?" Surziches asked, confused but shocked. "Not in the least. I'm just sick of the drama, and I don't need to be reminded of what happened at the Orc." "Very well. We'll see you tomorrow," Issei. Surziches says as both he and Grafia teleported back to the underworld. After that, Gasper spoke up. Big brother?" Gasper tried to ask something. "Not you, big brother, anymore. You made that very clear," Issei said harshly, hurting Gasper deeply. "Bro, no need to take your anger out on him," says, trying to calm Issei down. "Shut up. Do you want to be on the receiving end instead?" Issei says as he shoots a killing intent aura at him. Everyone sees this is no longer the Issei they knew. Everyone just leaves. "I have a door to fix," Issei says in a non-caring manner. Asia looks at him and then notices a porn-free room. Issei. We hurt you to the point where you are showing this much hatred? Asia asks, worrying. Obvious. Issei replied. Kaneko then notices that the room no longer has any porn on display like it usually does. Your room. It's Kaneko trying to say something. Yeah, I got rid of the porn and made good money. Happy now? Again Issei replied nonchalantly. Issei, we're sorry. Please forgive us. Rias pleads to Issei. With that, Issei threw a drinking glass at the wall with enough force to shatter the glass and create a few cracks in the wall. Shouldn't you be out seeing Riser or something? You said that he's better than you, so why are you here? Issei sharply questions Rias in anger. That was cold-hearted, Issei, Rias says, now shocked at his words. Are you surprised that I am? Let me enjoy my freedom, and I feel like a chain collar was removed and can move around, Issei says while stretching his arms, which leaves Rias speechless. Then we at least. Asia was speaking and stepping forward before getting cut off. Freeze, shouted Issei, which caused Asia to back away. There are shards of glass on the floor, be careful. Oh right. Thanks, says, seeing he still cares a little bit. Just be careful, everyone leaves, please. I need to clean up, Issei says as he calms down. But big brother, we need to talk to you, Gasper pleaded to Issei. I'm not your brother, shouted Issei, getting annoyed, which caused Gasper to hide behind Zenobia. Not anymore, you made that very clear, all of you did save for Roswis and Ravel. I have training after school. Wait, you're going to fight with us? Zenobia questioned while tilting her head. Only to fulfill my promise to Saraerg, you can get new pawns now, Rias. Your mistake is now free devil. Look for pawns that can help after the raiding game, Issei said nonchalantly. You finally said my name, Rias said while holding her hand to her mouth with tears going down her face. That action causes Roswis to faceap and Issei's eye to start twitching. Right now, I want to say so much more, and it's not what you want to hear. I need to rest after this. You guys have completely drained me, Issei said while sighing. Alright guys, enough, we have classes tomorrow, so bed now, Roswis says in her teacher mode. I swear she's more like a mother. Day by day, Issei thought while he began to clean his room after everyone left. He then calls a carpenter to fix the door tomorrow evening. He went to the kitchen and made something to eat as he had to keep his strength up to train and get ready for the fight. He then lay in bed and listened to some music for a while to calm himself. As he listened to some calming music, he finally fell asleep. During the night, Akeno came in since there was no door and just sat on the floor while leaning on his bedside. She looked at his face and saw that he had been crying himself to sleep. She could hear the songs being played due to the dead silence of the night and started to cry herself to sleep on the cold floor. The next morning, as Issei woke up earlier than usual and got out of bed, he noticed Akeno sleeping on the cold, uncomfortable floor. He sighed, then gently picked her up and placed her on his bed. He got ready for school, went downstairs to the kitchen, and made coffee. As he sat there savoring every bitter drop, taking in the rich aroma, it was interrupted by Aja walking in. Oh, good morning, Issei said, hoping for a response. Morning, Issei said with no emotion. I'm about to make some French toast. Do you want some? Asked. No thanks, Issei said as he did not even make eye contact. He then finishes his coffee and washes the mug, puts it in its rightful place, grabs his bag, and goes out the door. As he walked to school, Drake spoke up. Never thought you would say no to her French toast partner, Drake said in surprise. I'm not hungry, Issei said, still lacking emotion. Congratulations on being a free devil, Drake said to try and cheer his partner up. Thanks, it feels good, Issei replied with a little bit of a smile. I'm proud of you, Issei, you controlled your anger last night and still plan to uphold your promise to Saraerg, but what about them during the match? Drake says with a question at the end. I'll protect them physically during the match, but they should learn to defend themselves. They should have figured that out since they know I won't willingly do it anymore, Issei says nonchalantly. I think the rating game is the least of their concerns. I could tell that they all regret being so cruel. Drake says, too late for regrets, so the match begins soon. We need to train. Do you think the rook promotion armor would do the job? Issei asks while thinking. Possibly if we tried hard enough, or if you ask Azazel or Surziches for a place to train, we could do a lot more, Drake says while thinking of possibilities. I'll request a leave of absence from Sona, then we'll train day and night if we have to, and this time no power up from some stupid pair of tits, Issei says with determination. Drake was speechless. Drake, what's wrong? Is here or something? Issei asks with concern and looks around. Who are you, and what have you done with my partner? Drake shouts in a shocking manner. The fuck, Drake, what's gotten into you? Issei asks while holding his head from the shouting. You just called the Gremory girl's tit stupid. The Issei I know would never call breast stupid. Who are you? Am I in a Jinjutsu? Drake says, still in shock from Issei's response. You see him pacing around in circles within the gear, making Issei's eye twitch. Drake, this is the new me. I sold all my porn and made good cash and made a huge profit. Maybe I should become a businessman. My lust got me in this mess, so yeah, I'm done with tits, porn, and things of the like. I just feel empty inside. Issei said while explaining himself. This feels so unnatural, Drake said with wide eyes. I would agree if I felt anything right now, Issei said while pawning. But that, Issei reached the school before Rias or the others. He encountered the two pervs reading a magazine, he completely ignored them and went to class, and the two pervs didn't even notice him walk right by. Some of the other students saw that he came early and alone. They started asking questions about why the girls weren't with him. Murayama and Caddis ran up to him. Hey Haidu, where are Rias and the others? Caddis asked out of curiosity. Don't know, don't care, now move. I got to get to class, and I don't want to deal with the bullshit first thing in the morning, Issei said with no emotion when he spoke, which scared both of them when they saw his eyes depleted of life. What did you do to them? Murayama asked worriedly. Nothing, and a piece of advice, stay out of it, now get out of my way, Issei said as he raised his voice at the end. Both girls saw his eye flash green for a split second. They stood aside and watched him walk to class. Was that Haidu? Murayama asked, really worried. That look in his eye, were they even human? I'm scared. Caddis said, also worried. Both girls started telling all the girls that Haidu wasn't acting like the perv he usually does. The orc wasn't with him when he arrived and didn't look at any girls other than straight into their eyes with a gaze that scared them. After a while, Rias and the others came. They were looking for Issei. They went to the clubroom and didn't find him. They checked the roof and cafeteria, not even in the usual peeping spots or girls' locker room, but instead, he was reading a book in class. Once they found him and tried to approach him, the bell rang and the teacher entered. The teacher was Roswis herself and told them to take their seats in their classes. Asia, Irina, Zenobia, and Issei had the same class, and the whole time they kept their eyes locked on him, everyone noticed their actions and how Issei straight up ignored them. He'd either look at the board, his books, or out of the window. Asia TV and Zenobia tried to talk to him during the break, but he ignored them each time. He ignored everyone, including the pervs, for as long as he could, until they asked him to peep on the girls for the 10th time and asked if he could convince them to let them grope their bodies. He snapped. You sons of bitches don't care about looking at girls' bodies anymore. Forget ass, tits, or whatever you're both into. I'm done with girls, love, or anything related to both. Peep on them and get kendo swords up your asses if you want to feel a woman's touch, go ahead and do it, but I won't visit you assholes in jail, Issei says as he shouts at the end with anger. His yelling was heard by every guy and girl nearby. The two pervs fainted, some gasped, some choked on their spit, or some just looked at him with wide eyes, especially the girls. A perverted girl in Issei's class, Aika couldn't believe what she was hearing. Hey Issei, did I hear you correctly? Asked Aika, shocked at what she heard. I just said loud and clear enough for half the school to hear, clear the dry cum out of your ears. You're going deaf, Issei said nonchalantly. This left Aika dumbfounded. Some of the students around them tried their absolute hardest to control their laughter. The ones who couldn't hold it in ran far and burst out laughing. Damn, Issei. That hurt, Aika said while looking down. Issei took a deep breath to calm himself. I'm sorry, haven't been myself. I'll say, you've never been so savage. What the hell happened to you? Aika said while worried about Issei. Oh, just getting my feelings manipulated and getting my heart ripped to pieces by whom I fell in love with and others for whom I gave my life, Issei said as going into his world. Wait, what? Aika asked confused. Forget it, it'll only raise more questions. Fee in case, Rias asks anyone here to join her club, don't. You'll regret it big time cause I fucking do, Issei said while ranting. Just what did they do? Aika asked, even more concerned now. Pray that you never find out, Issei said as he sighed. Thanks for watching this video. Part 1 is over. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. And also check out the playlist that I have created and enjoy. Link is in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.